This is an SM Media production.
When the lights go out and you're feeling small and the whole world falls like a crumbling wall, hand on heart and you say you gave it all. Are you holding back just a little bit? There's something more that you gotta give. Maybe now's the time to let it out. You have the heart of a giant, show it.
Hello folks and welcome to the debut edition of this season's Scottish Women's Football Show right here on SM Media. I'm Scotty Pike. It's a pleasure to be your host as always. We are close to the kick-off of the new 2023-24 SWPL season. This is going to be the prediction show. This is the one where we're going to come May, we're going to get the same panel on and we're going to slag them off for the predictions, and I'll be probably at the top of the list because my predictions have been terrible the past couple of years in this league. But we've got an all-star panel on tonight's episode, and I'm just going to go around the panel and introduce them all. It's a pleasure, as always, to welcome onto the show. We thoroughly enjoy always having her on. It's always a pleasure to welcome the legend that is Suzanne Mulvey.
Thanks for having me again. It's great being here.
It's a pleasure. She's hung up the boots, but she's probably one of the most recognisable faces in Scottish women's football. It's always a pleasure to talk to Lisa Swanson. It's a pleasure to finally get her on the show. Thank you very much for coming on.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Absolute pleasure. And you'll see him from Jack's MC Media. It's always a pleasure to welcome on to the show Tommy Poneskis.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Absolute pleasure. We're looking forward to this season. It's obviously, Suzanne, if it's anything like last season, we're in for another treat.
I don't know if I'll ever get an end to a season like we did there, like helicopter changing direction pretty much. It was fantastic for the neutral. It was fantastic for, just the amount of involvement, the amount of people that have been joining the game, that have been supporting the game. National team playing at Hampden, just the overall coverage, the overall growth of the game, and then to top it off, we're getting a title decider right down to the wire. And 3 teams involved could have went. So it was fantastic. It was great to watch and really exciting. I couldn't believe what I was seeing, watching the 2 games side by side. It was just brilliant for the game, obviously in Scotland. It was brilliant.
It absolutely was. Lisa, it's going to obviously be a different feel this time of year for you as compared to recent years, obviously no longer playing. What's it like? How much different is it to be kind of looking now as a kind of overseer other than a player?
It's obviously a lot different. I think, well, when I was at Kilmarnock, the only team I cared about or put any focus on was Kilmarnock. So it's good to actually enjoy it and kind of have a more insight into other teams.
It absolutely is. Obviously, it's really good. We'll get your thoughts on Kilmarnock a little later on. Tommy, it's a really interesting time. Obviously, the Women's World Cup's in high flow. We're all enjoying watching it. And you just, as we kind of point out, obviously, all the time, that the growth in the game, obviously, is just growing all the time.
It's brilliant because when you see the crowds that we're at, the cup, things like that, it shows that it's not just growing as in people playing in the game or coaching in the game. You're starting to grow fans, and that's pretty much what you need to do, and it is being done.
It absolutely is, and obviously, Suzanne, it is to see like kind of the launch of the SWPL. We saw it in Sky the other day. Sky are obviously going to have a lot more games by the sounds of it. It is just growth, and it's getting better every season. We're seeing obviously big games going on Sky. BBC have got a lot more games. It just seems to be a lot at rapid scale. It just seems to be getting a lot better.
Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. Year in, year out, we're seeing more participants, more sponsors, which obviously is important for the growth of the game. You're getting more teams that are going professional or semi-professional. The kind of grassroots level as well, the amount of academies associated with clubs as well. It's just everything seems to be positive. For me, there's no lot negative. Overall, if you look over the past couple of years, the only real negative is the fact that the national team haven't qualified for any major tournaments. But apart that aside, in terms of the kind of league, the structure, everything like that, it's only progressing, it's only getting better. I think the people behind the scenes are putting a lot of work in, and for me it's just fantastic to watch. And I think what we just spoke about there, the kind of end to the title that we had, I think that shows the amount of teams that are involved and how tight it is. There's other teams that are pushing. Hearts are up there now. Partick Thistle always kind of throw their hat in the ring. Hibs, hopefully they'll be a contender as well. So there's quite a few teams to look out for. It's not just always, for years it was Glasgow City Hibs or, kind of Rangers were in the mix or whatever. Now, there's quite a few teams there that when it comes to the top 4 or 5 teams, I think that it could go either way. There could be a lot of teams that take points over each other.
Yeah, absolutely. And Lisa, obviously it's been a big changes. There's a lot of transition in terms of players and managers. Different managers. Joe Potter obviously getting in at Rangers. Grant Scott going back to Hibs, which is obviously kind of looking back to when they were successful. Obviously going back to the manager that made them there. They're just it's going to be it's been a very busy summer. A lot of clubs have been doing a lot of business, and there's a lot of new players coming into the league.
There is a lot of changes, but I think it is a good thing. It just shows you that the game's progressing, and maybe teams and clubs are taking it a wee bit more serious. They all want to challenge. They all want to be winning the league and things like that. So I think the changes can only be a good thing.
It certainly is. And Tommy, what we're kind of looking for, obviously the top flight. Montrose are in, obviously really good last season. A lot of new sides kind of making a lot of transition. We are in for a really exciting
changes, as you say, but there's huge amounts of players coming in all over the place, and players changing and things like that. It's been fantastic actually. So there's a lot of unknowns. You know what I mean? I'm expecting Montrose to do well, but at the same time, I'm not so sure because maybe a bit too early for them to be up.
Right, we'll get into our predictions. That's what you're all here to see. That's what all the guys are here to provide. We're going to just go, obviously, we're going to ask the question, go around the panel. Everybody's going to have their input and what they think, how they think the order's going to go. I'm going to just throw this out before we get started. As when it comes to first, second and third, does anybody get anyone outside Glasgow City, Rangers and Celtic?
No.
Right, okay, that's fine. I was just wondering if anybody was ahead of the curve or looking for a wee shock. Well, we'll just get around the panel. First, second and third. Suzanne, who have you went for in that order and why?
I think this is probably the hardest year to call for the simple reason that I think that there's been so much change. In terms of Rangers, first of all, new manager, you don't know how that's going to go. It could be, they could hit the ground running. It could be like Hearts were, when Olin came in, it was a bit of a transition period and they didn't start doing well until they kind of got to grasp with her style of play. So I think it could be the same with Rangers. My predictions for second, third are, for the simple reason, Celtic top, and the reason why I say that is because I feel that they've still got the core players that they've had for years, and for me, that's why Glasgow City won the league 4 years in a row, because they had the same core players. So for me, the fact that they've still got Kelly Clark, the fact they've still got Craigie, they've got Natalie Ross, and then obviously Caitlin Hayes, her performances last season were absolutely fantastic. They've managed to keep her. For me, the problem area for them is just that striker. They're just not able to hold down a striker, and obviously to win the league, that's what you need. So for me, they look like they had a couple of good players on their pre-season. So, hopefully they'll get a striker that can bang in the goals. And then in second place, I think Rangers, just because I do think that they've got a lot of good players, and Kirsty Howitt, played alongside her at Rangers. Lisa is, we did as well. And I think that she's such a great player and she's a real goal scorer, that the fact that she was just back from injury, I think that she'll be brilliant for them, and I think she'll score quite a few. And Glasgow City, I really like Glasgow City. I've played there. I just feel there's a lot of changes there, and the experienced players that they've got, Joe Love, Hayley Lauder, I just feel that isn't enough because of the amount of changes. I hope I'm wrong. I really like Leanne Ross, and she's done a fantastic job last year, but just the amount of changes, I don't know if they will be able to keep up with Rangers and Celtic this season.
Interesting. Lisa, who we got in what the first, second and third order, and why?
I've got Rangers first, but Glasgow City second and Celtic third. I went for Rangers first. I think, considering the investment that Rangers have put into the club over the past few years, I think they kind of need to be winning it now, to be honest. I think they were very unlucky last season, and obviously there's a lot of changes. They've got a new manager coming in, so I think that will be a positive thing for them. I went for Glasgow City second, just based on how good they are. We played them last season as well at Kilmarnock, and they're such an organised team. They're really good, and I think they've kind of got a point to prove as well. They're competing now with Rangers and Celtic, who have put a lot of money into them, and they're not going to want to fall behind, especially after being so successful through previous seasons. And I went for Celtic third. I don't really have a reason for that. I just put them third.
Can I say I'm surprised to hear that, to be fair. Tommy, who we got in first, second and third, and what's your reasons?
I don't think there'll be much in it, to be honest with you. I do not think there'll be huge gaps points-wise. I'm going to go first Rangers because of the excitement you see with players like Jodie and Kirsty, Jodie McCleary and Kirsty. Sorry.
McLean, sorry, yeah.
McLean, yes, aye. Watching Kirsty McLean play in midfield was just a breath of fresh air every time she come on. It was different movement. So the younger players are quite actually an excitement there, and I think, yeah, there's a lot of changes, but I think that they could possibly make the difference. Celtic, I've gone for second, purely because, as you said, they've got a solid team, a solid base there, and they've brought in a few new players, but usually, as Glasgow City did with the 4 in the row, it was, the same sort of setup. They had the solid group there, and that's what Celtic have got, and I've gone for City in third because although they're good, I'm just wondering whether they can push on like they have done in previous years because of the changes that Rangers and Celtic.
Yeah, very interesting picks. I kind of think Glasgow City just have the edge, as Suzanne said, obviously, Leanne Ross has obviously been in, really steadied the ship. What I found really interesting about last season is I know there was only 5 points in it. Glasgow City conceded 18 goals. Celtic conceded 11, Rangers conceded 9. If Glasgow City could sort their defence out, you know what I mean? They still won the league. They won the league with a 94 goal difference with 104 and 102 for second and third. So it shows you they were scoring goals, just conceding as well. They were, if they could sharpen up that, because it's going to be similar statistics. The top 3 are miles clear of everybody else. So there are going to be games where they're going to win by ridiculous goals. But is the loss of Jenna Clark big for Glasgow City? Of course it is, but have they got enough? I don't know much about the players they brought in. I just think they've got the winner's mentality. I just think they wedge it. I agree with Tommy. It's going to be very close. It could be kind of 2, 3, 4 points in it again this season. Went for Rangers in second. I like their business. I think they've done pretty well in terms of who they brought in. Obviously, Joe Potter's get a lot of contacts down south. Again, though, just the loss of the likes of Emma Watson. You've got Sam Kerr, obviously, as well. Kayla McCoy. A lot of players Rangers have lost. I just don't know if are they going to click at the start. And if they click at the start, they probably should be the favourites. And Celtic, I've got to be honest, I don't like the way the summers went. I've thought that all summer. The loss of Jacinta, I know they've got the core, the likes of Caitlin Hayes and that, but losing the goalkeeper, Tijona, obviously away back to Canada. Liv Ferguson's went to Wolves, Jacinta's away, Natasha Flint going on loan, Clara Reardon. There are a lot of players to replace. So I just worry, are Celtic going to... They brought in, obviously, the likes of Colette Kavanagh. They've done pretty well in terms of bringing in players from abroad, but are they going to get up to speed? I think the start's just as important as the end this year, because I think you look at the fixtures, it's going to be very difficult. You need runs, and I don't know about the Celtic team if they're going to be able to maintain it all season. So Glasgow City for me first, Rangers second, Celtic third. Suzanne, I know I haven't wrote this down for you, so I'm kind of throwing this on you. Hibs and Hearts, can I finish 4th and 5th? Is that going to be the same this year?
I think so, yeah. I think just, in terms of the investment, kind of full-time, part-time, and again, they're kind of keeping the same core of players, and for me that is key. You've got to have that core of players that know the club, that know the setup, and then you just add and lose players, along the way. So for me, again, I think it could possibly be the same. Hearts, then Hibs. Just in terms of, Hibs, they've got some fantastic players, but they're just a hit or a miss. It's, and they've been like that maybe for 2 or 3 seasons. You just don't know what team's going to turn up. They'll have a solid performance and then they'll maybe get beat off Partick Thistle. So it is, and obviously the fact that Hearts, finally got the monkey off the back and managed to overcome them last season and kind of, stay above them and get the victory. So for me, I think it will be the same again. Hearts 4th, Hibs 5th.
Lisa, Hearts, obviously, Eva Leeds been pretty impressive since you came in. Hibs have went for Grant Scott, obviously going back to kind of get some success back. What do we think of the Edinburgh clubs? Are you with Suzanne? You got them 4th and 5th?
I do like Hearts. Obviously I spent a wee bit of time there as well. It's a great club to be part of. I think they're really looking to push on now as well and kind of get in the mix with the clubs that are higher up in the table. But I can't really see them let anyone overtaking either club.
Interesting. Tommy, what about the Edinburgh clubs? Where are we at with them?
That's exactly the same. I agree with the ladies there. It's just, aye, they're there, but thereabouts. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think they'll be 4th.
I think the massive thing for Hearts is, signing the likes of Kathleen McGovern. She knows the league. She's a good player. She's been involved in kind of the national setups at youth level. And for me, if she comes in and she can be the key player, that's what they were missing. Georgia Timms at the start of the season last season was firing the goals in, and then she just kind of hit a bit where she wasn't scoring as much, picked up a wee injury, and that's what they were lacking. They were quite solid in terms of their defence and midfield, but they were just lacking that colour edge up front. And I've watched McGov a bit at Celtic, and I feel that she is a quality player who knows where the back of the net is. So for me, she could be really key in terms of pushing them up. Could they maybe start getting the results against the top 3?
Yep, very much so. I'd agree with that. Let's move into overachievers now. What I mean by this, if you saw our SPFL preview show, the top 6 has obviously been introduced last season. I'm looking for a side who perhaps were unlucky not to finish in the top 6 last year that could get there this season. Lisa, I'm going to start with you. Who's your team for overachievers?
I've put down Motherwell for that one. I know quite a lot of the girls at Motherwell. I speak to Chelsea Watson, who plays there, and so I kind of know what's going on at the club. I think they were kind of unlucky last season. And I think just the squad of players that they've got individually, they're very good players, and I think get them playing together, playing good football. I don't see why they can't make it into top 6.
Signed a lot of players, obviously Becky Cameron for St Johnstone, Caitlin Canavan for Rossvale, who might come up later on. I think could be a really good signing as well. Tommy, who's your overachievers? Who do you think could outperform their predictions this year?
I think Motherwell as well. I'm just going to go with Lisa. I agree with you, Lisa. I think Motherwell.
Motherwell. Suzanne, you mean that full sweep for Motherwell?
Yeah, I think so. Just for the simple fact that I think there isn't many other teams that have got the experience that they've got. They've got a lot of players, like Lisa was saying, Chelsea's, been at Rangers, she's got that experience. So I think for me, the only other kind of surprise where, could, catch you by surprise would be Montrose if they manage to get a few good results. But it's just that lucky. They've got some good players, but it's just the lack of experience. It's completely different. SWPL 2 is a strong league, but that step up to SWPL 1 when you're playing against professional teams now, like Rangers, Celtic, Glasgow City, Hearts and Hibs as well. It's a big step up. So for me, they could be a bit of a shock, but I can't see anybody other than Motherwell pushing for that last spot in the top 6.
Tommy, who have we got as underachievers?
Montrose.
Right.
Aye. Because everybody's going to think that they're going to do really well because they smashed SWPL 2. But Suzanne says it's a totally different ballgame when you're up. Do you know what I mean? So for me, Montrose.
Montrose, interesting. Suzanne, who have we got?
I hate saying this, but I spent a bit of time at Partick Thistle, but for me, I feel that this is a kind of real important season for them for the simple reason that they were kind of running at the bottom and then they managed to make the top 6. So for me, they really need to sustain that place. And if they don't, then, are they going to be able to attract players and keep pushing? So I hope that I'm wrong, but for me, they need to be making the top 6. So I think that if they don't, keep up, then they could be the underachievers.
Interesting. Lisa?
I went for Hibs just to be different. I think obviously when we were involved in football, they were always kind of up there. Was maybe second place, always pushing to try and win the league and things like that. I think the teams around them are just going to be a wee bit more stronger. So I think based on their standards, it will be an underachievement for them, I think. So I went for Hibs.
I have went for Spartans. I know they finished the season really well. I just look at who I know they brought in Tegan Brown and that's a really good signing, but lost Katie Frew, they've lost Emma McFadden, Rosie McQuillan's away, Catherine Smartler's obviously retired. I just think, are they going to be able to maintain? They probably were probably the most informed side in the league last season towards the end. Obviously, I think they won 9 out of the last 10 games or something like that. That's unbelievable. But I just worry, are they going to keep that going? I think Montrose could do really well. So I'm going to go with Motherwell as my overachievers. I think the business they've done is really good. I think keeping the likes of Carla Boyce and Kayla McDonald, I think, is really good. Terry Botchell could be tough to replace. I think she could do really well at Celtic. I think she could kick on this year once she gets a bit of a first team role. I'm going for Motherwell as my overachievers, and I just worry for Spartans that they might struggle this season. Suzanne, who have you got finishing in 11th and 12th?
I think that Hamilton are always going to be the team that are, run a bit there. I just think that there's so many changes. Obviously, you've got, first of all, Gary Doctor leaving after such a long period of time. Bobby Watson, he knows the club, he's been in and around there. But it is a big change. It is, are they going to completely change their style, or is he going to kind of keep the same things that Gary did? So for me, that's massive, that kind of change. They've lost a lot of players as well. They've got in Rebecca Taylor from Rangers on loan. Hopefully, she'll get some game time and she'll do well for them. It's a good young player. But for me, I think they could be right down there. And again, Montrose, I think when you get promoted, it's always going to be that first and foremost, the most important thing is to stay in the league, that you're promoted to. But for me, that'll be, such an important task for Montrose. And I don't know if it'll be one that they'll be up to just because of the experience that they've got.
Interesting. Lisa, who you got in the bottom two?
I've got Montrose 11th and Hamilton 12th.
Okay.
So I have.
Did you make them Montrose last year?
They were really good. They're such a strong physical side. They get in your face, they like to wind you up, things like that. But they're a very good side.
What about Hamilton? Obviously, Bobby getting in. They've signed a lot of players from SWPL too. I'm looking at like Amy Robertson, Lauren Kerr, Abby McDonald. There's a lot of Shelley Campbell, obviously, as well, from a teammate of yours. There's some good business they've done, Hamilton.
I think Shelley will do well there, to be fair. She's a really good player. I think she'll do well there. But I just think all the other teams, I think they maybe just be too strong for Hamilton, and I can't really see them picking up too many points.
Okay. Tommy, who you got in the bottom two?
I went with 11th. I've got Hamilton. I think they're always, as Suzanne says, they're always there or thereabouts at the bottom there. But the changes, I know Bobby's really good at what he does, but the changes with the girls' movement, I do not think that's going to be beneficial for them. And whether they can gel quickly enough at the start, you know what I mean? And obviously, I'm going to go for 12th, I'm going to put Dundee United. Solid, but they just don't seem to be at the races sometime, and I think that they will struggle.
I am with you. I'm with Tommy. I agree. I think 11th Hamilton. I think Bobby's a great gate mate. Obviously knows the game really well. I think he's slowly been kind of looking for this job. I think it's been the right time to make the change. I think he's went and recruited quite well. I think they'll probably be doing really well to finish 11th. So I'm going to give them the edge. I think they could finish 11th. 12th, I just think with Dundee United losing a lot of players to Montrose, Danny McGinley going to Hearts, I think there's a lot of changes there. I know they've brought in a couple of good players. Obviously, Jade Wilson's come in, Megan Sidey, Nicola Jameson. There's good players. I just think that lots of like Danny McGinley, Jade McLaren, Niamh Guthrie, a lot of those players are very, very hard to replace. So I think Hamilton 11th and Dundee United 12th for me. I'm with Tommy on that one. Suzanne, Player of the Year. There's a lot to choose from. The talent in the league's only getting better. Who's going to be the best player in the league this year?
I think it's going to be not a kind of new addition. I think it's going to be somebody that'll just step up. So for me, it could be somebody like, Kirsty Howard. If Rangers go on and win the league, she bangs in the goal. She could, take both top goal scorer and Player of the Year. So for me, somebody like that, and I'd like that. I really like Kirsty. I'd like to see her start getting involved in the national team setup as well. They're in need of a top striker. So for me, I'd like to see somebody like Kirsty. If not, just kind of, I do think it'll be somebody that, not a new signing for anybody, somebody that's kind of been about for a while.
Very good. Lisa, who you got for Player of the Year?
I went for Cathy Hill at Rangers. I think she's probably one of their most consistent players last season. She was vital in their defensive record. I think if she gets the game time that she deserves, I think she can be a big player for Rangers. Obviously, I've got them down to win the league, so I reckon she'd be a massive part of that.
Very good.
How much did you to say that?
It's a surprise for her, she doesn't know.
Tommy, who you got for Player of the Year?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Kathy as well, because the performances that she put in last season were just crazy brilliant. You know, I mean, just it's the heart of the player. It's not so much like you can have good players, but you can have players with heart, and she's definitely one of those that can go out and just G the whole team up. It was brilliant to watch.
Very good. I think Caitlin Hayes could be another one who could have another storming year. I think she was really good last season, probably one of the best players in the league. I think if Celtic are the team out of the top three I worry about. If they are to have any title challenge, I think Caitlin Hayes, if she stays fit, if she's obviously a big part of that dressing room, I think if Celtic have any input in where this league's going, I think Caitlin Hayes will be a massive part of that. And I'm going to go for Caitlin Hayes. Let's move into top goal scorer, Suzanne. Who's going to walk away with the golden boot?
I've just mentioned the name there, Kirsty Howard. The only other kind of outsider that I'd like to throw the name in would be, like, say, Kathleen McGovern. You know, if Hearts kind of, I think that they don't seem to have a lot of goals. So, you know, if she's the player that'll get them the goals, then that'll be kind of down to her. So she will get a lot of their goals. It won't be spread out. I feel like Rangers, you always get, you know, if it's a big scoreline, you always get 5 or 6 different scorers. The same with Celtic, the same with Glasgow City. So for me, you know, a team like Hearts will have kind of 1 or 2 players that might get all the goals for them. But like I said, Kirsty Howard, as I said, you know, her second season back, obviously just back from injury last season. I'd like to see her hit the ground running and bang the goals in the back of the net.
Lisa, who you got?
Yeah, I went for Kirsty Howard as well. Obviously a very good player. I think if Rangers can keep her fit and kind of play in a system that suits her, there's no reason why she can't be scoring goals every week.
Interesting. Tommy, who you got?
Kirsty, definitely Kirsty Howard. She's just, I think she's waiting. She's on the cusp, waiting on quite a few goals. And as you said there, if they put the team together that she can play through at the top, then I think she'll do very, very well.
We're all in agreement of Kirsty Howard. I think it will be between Kirsty Howard and Lauren Davidson. I think Kirsty will probably have the edge. I think Rangers will score more goals, and I just think Kirsty is such a vocal point to that Rangers side. Signing to watch, Suzanne. Who's the signing that's caught your eye over the summer? This doesn't. You can have more than one if you want.
Yeah, a bit of a strange one, but I feel like, say, I know that it's not really a signing, but Jo Potter going into Rangers, I think that could be massive in terms of if they can finally, you know, take the title back, or if it'll be kind of the opposite way that it takes them a while. So possibly her. You know, there's a couple. As I say, it's quite tough in terms of, like, you know, the goal score and everything. You know, Glasgow City and Celtic, the signings that they've got, we just don't know a lot about them. So it's kind of hard to judge who's going to be there or thereabouts. So for me, you know, obviously at Rangers, you've got Jo Potter going in. I think that is absolutely massive. Like you said, Tyree Butchell going back to Celtic, you know, you mentioned Scott. I think that she could have a big season. And they need, you know, I feel that Celtic, because they've had so many players leave, I feel that they do need, you know, players to step up. Amy Gallagher needs to have a good season like she finished last season. Tyree Butchell step up. I think that there needs to be quite a few, you know, Cav as well coming in. I think going for Rangers to Celtic, she needs to, you know, hit the ground running. So for me, you know, it's just kind of a case of a few Celtic players stepping up.
Lisa, who's your signing of this summer that you think could do well this year?
I went for Lauren McGregor going to Queen's Park. I think she'll be massive for them. Queen's Park are obviously a good side already, and I think having that addition will only push them on. And I think she's probably one of the standouts for me. Obviously, I know what she's like as a player, so I have went for Lauren.
Interesting. Tommy, who you got?
I've got Sarah, I think it's Ewens, the striker that went to Rangers. Is it Ewens or Evans? It's Ewens, I think. Yeah, sorry. I think she's hungry. She's a team player, and obviously she's got a good eye for a goal.
Very good. I've got a few written down here. I'm going to go 2 in the. I'm going to go 3 in the SWPL 1. I've got 1 in SWPL 2. I was speaking to this player's dad the other day, and he said that she has come back to Scotland a much better player. Carly Garasoli, that's went to Hearts, formerly of Rangers. I was speaking to her dad. He says she could kick on massively this year. Amy Robertson, we had her on last year, Suzanne. I think she could do really well at Hamilton. And I was speaking to a couple of people at the Rangers training day, and I asked them, I said, who's the one player who stood out? And they said Rachel Rowe, that came from Reading, seems to be the real deal with all reports. SWPL 2, I think Livingston have had a really good summer, and I think the signing of Courtney McAvoy from Boroughmuir could be a massive signing for that side. I think she fits the bill perfectly there. I'm all over Livingston for this league, as we'll go into in a minute. I think she could be the answer to them. I think she could be the reason they could go up. And just as that, we'll move into SWPL 2. Obviously, a very interesting season last year. Lisa probably know it as well as anybody. It was very, very close. I don't think I've seen a league as tight in a long time, especially in the top six. What's it like this year? Obviously, you know a lot of the sides. I'm going to get your thoughts on them all. What's it like? How kind of good was the dynamic in the league last year? And to see the kind of results were weird every week. We saw a lot of different results. It's a very, very competitive league.
I think it's been like that, to be honest, since I've played in it. I first joined the league in 2018 on loan, and every game was just unpredictable. You could never really call it. There was never a certainty this team's going to win. It is very unpredictable, and it's a really competitive league, which is good. And it's no different right now. Every club's getting stronger and stronger, and they're all, again, any club in that league is capable of winning it and pushing on. So it makes it exciting.
Tommy, but obviously this league is going to be a very good. We're going to have a lot of good sides coming up from the SWF in the next few years. We're going to see some sides coming down as well. This league's only getting stronger.
Absolutely. The two that I was looking at are actually, well, three, if I'm allowed three. The two, I think I'll go with St Johnstone, who are going to hit it first. They're going to be in first place. You've got players like Hannah Clark, the captain there, and she just oozes confidence when she's, in the middle of the park, and when she's playing up front, she's just brilliant. Lee Vervin at the back. You've got really strong players in that squad. Also, for second, they'll probably go Gartcairn women or Glasgow women, because Glasgow women will be itching to get back up.
Suzanne, what we're thinking for SWPL 2, obviously Glasgow women coming down, as Tommy says, they'll be itching to prove their point. They did struggle with the step up. I think everybody could see that, but it's obviously shaping up to a really competitive league. Give us your top two.
I think Gartcairn could be up there again. And then the other one is Kilmarnock. I think Lisa will probably, Chappie was such a fantastic manager. And it just, it was probably too soon to see what, he was trying to implement there. So I think that they could actually be ones kind of to watch. I think that they'll, they've kept kind of the core of players. I think that they could be right up there and kind of, probably be the most that would challenge Gartcairn up the top.
Lisa, I don't think there's going to be any prizes for originality in guessing who you've got as number one, but it's what you're kind of thinking with your old club, Kilmarnock. Obviously, you've still got a lot of input there as well. What you kind of thinking for the top two?
Obviously, I'm staying loyal to Kilmarnock, so I've got them as first, and I've got Queen's Park as second.
Okay.
Just in terms of Kilmarnock, like as Suzanne said there, I think for Chappie, like coming in that first season, it was always going to be difficult to go and win the league straight away. I think he needed that season to kind of suss out the players, suss out other teams, and obviously, like, there's a lot going on behind the scenes at Kilmarnock, a lot of good things in terms of the club. The club are fully backing the women's team now, which is important. They've got ambitions. Obviously, I know things that are going on, and I think just obviously I can't give that away, but based on what I know, I've got Kilmarnock as first. Queen's Park, I think they might surprise quite a few teams this season. I really do like Queen's Park, and just based on like the players that they've signed. Obviously, they've signed Monica as well from Kilmarnock, who will be a great addition. But I've got them as second.
I think Livingston could be the team to beat. I think they'll just be another side who could just kick on again. I think they've signed really well. They've obviously brought a few players in for Boroughmuir. Like say Emma McFadden coming in, I think Livingston could just be a side. I think they were very impressive last year. I think they could be a side who just take this league by storm. I've got them first. Second, I had 4 or 5 teams in for this, and I was with you on Kilmarnock. I think that Queen's Park could do really well. I think St Johnstone just keeping a lot of the players they've got. They brought in the likes of Ellie Mitchell. Keeping the likes of Morgan Steedman, I think, is massive. I think she was obviously one of the star players last year. Keeping her's massive. They've got like Alex Moody, Jodie Ovens, a lot of good players. I think St Johnstone for me could just be second, but it could really be you could have 5 or 6 teams in that for me. That the league again is just going to be so competitive. Tommy, team to watch, maybe a team that you think might not break into the top 2, but certainly will stay clear of the relegation zone.
Good question. Again, it's Glasgow Women, because as I said, they've just been relegated, and for any team to be relegated, they've got a point to prove. So for me, team to watch would be Glasgow Women.
Glasgow Women. Suzanne, who's your team to watch?
Livingston. I think that they've got a really good setup, and I think that the additions that they brought in, I think will only strengthen the squad that they have. So I think that they could be ones that really could surprise a lot of people. Interesting.
Lisa, who's your team to watch?
I've got Livingston for that one. I didn't really see too much of them, to be honest, last season. Obviously heard a lot about them. So, and I know a few of the players that play there, so I'm looking forward to seeing how they get on.
Yeah, I think Livingston could be quite good. I'm going for Queen's Park. I think I'm with Lisa. I think Queen's Park could do really well. I think they've signed really well. A lot of good players. Obviously, Monica, I think, could be a really good asset there. I think Craig's done a really good job since he's went in, and I think he'll be eager to. He's obviously done it with Glasgow Women in the past. I think he'll be eager to take the side up the leagues this year. 7th and 8th. Let's go to Lisa first. Who you got finishing in the bottom 2?
Yeah, this will probably surprise people, but I went for Glasgow Women, 7th. I just think they'll struggle a wee bit. Obviously, I think that the league is so competitive and everyone has strengthened. But I can see them struggling a wee bit, and I went for Stirling 8th.
Interesting. I'm with Lisa on Glasgow Women 7th. I just think the transition of players is going to be a lot. I think it's going to be difficult. I think obviously making the step up was difficult, but kind of coming back down that quick, I don't know if it's going to suit them. I don't know. I'm get Glasgow Women 7th. I think Stirling Uni will probably be the team that will struggle in 8th. And Tommy, who you got bottom 2?
Queen's Park 7th and Stirling Uni 8th.
Okay, Suzanne, what's your bottom 2?
I'm in agreement with you and Lisa. I think Glasgow Women, and for me, the simple reason, obviously being an older player, for such a long period of time, I know the importance of experience. And for me, they just had so many young players. And I think when you're going, when you're getting relegated and you're going down to the league below, I think that's a big blow. A lot of players changing over, and I feel that because SWPL 2 is such a strong league. It's just so competitive that I think it will be just too much for them. So I think they'll be right down the bottom in 7th, and I think Stirling Uni 8th as well. They're kind of a team that has been right round about the bottom for a while now, and I just think that the teams that are growing and developing, I think that they will get left behind.
Interesting. Yeah, I've went for those bottom 2. Let's go to the cups. Obviously, we've got the SWPL Cup and the Scottish Gas Scottish Cup. Why they don't just call it the Scottish Gas Cup, I don't know. But the SWPL Cup and the Scottish Cup. Suzanne, who's your winners in that?
I can't see it being outside the top 3. I think that Rangers possibly for a clean sweep. I feel that, as I say, I put Celtic to win the league, but I feel that Rangers have just got a few more key players. And we spoke about Kirsty Howard a lot. I think that when you've got big players like that can score goals in big games, in knockout football, I think that having players like that are really important. So I feel that Rangers will do really well.
Lisa, who's your predictions for the cups?
I went for Rangers as well.
The treble, Rangers treble.
Rangers treble.
Wow.
About time.
What is it about Rangers you like? Obviously, I know you said at the start, but just is it been the new manager? Is it the kind of influx of new players? What is it about Rangers that just think you think they could kick on this year?
I think just based on the investment that they've put into the women's team. Obviously, I spent a lot of time there as well, so I always want to see them do well. I know a few of the players there. I know what they go through every single day, basically. So I think for the players, it would be massive for them. I know a lot of the players that it's their only focus is. I'm speaking about Kathy, to be honest. So like she's Rangers diehard, and it's her dream basically, and I know that's the same for a lot of the girls. So I think having that kind of attitude within the squad can only push them on.
Brilliant. Tommy, what's your predictions for the Cups?
Rangers. Need to say more. I think that, Suzanne and that said exactly why. It's it's the players they have, the drive they have. They're possibly a Rangers Celtic final, City third, but I think Rangers are going to have a clean sweep.
Very good. I think Rangers will do well in the Cups. I thought last season, I think you saw towards the end of the season they kind of struggled with the big game. I think Celtic are more up for the final, to be honest. I think the one thing that I thought Rangers struggled with, and I think it was the reason they didn't win the league, I think they struggled a lot in big games. I think you can tell with Joe Potter. I've spoken to a couple of people that were there, been around her. She's very, very motivated, and she kind of has that big game mentality. I think that could work wonders in the Cups in particular. I think Rangers could win both Cups. Before we wrap up, I haven't told the panel that I had this plan. I'm going to ask you all just off the cuff for a prediction for the season that you think could happen. Whether it's Scotland doing well in the Nations League, whether it's a historic moment that we break the attendance record again. Suzanne, I'm going to come to you first. I'm going to put you in the spot quicker than everybody else. What's your big prediction for the season?
Possibly that there could be a shock result. I think that we spoke a lot about Rangers, Celtic, Glasgow City, but some of the signings, some of the movement, especially Celtic, the amount of players that they've lost, I could actually see a team like maybe a Hearts or a Hibs, actually taking points and maybe a bit of a gubbing, of one of the top teams, like a shock 3-0 or something like that. I can see something like that happening. It's due, we've not seen it for a while. I think a few seasons ago, Rangers beat Glasgow City, was it 4-0 or something like that? And I think something like that, just a kind of shock result for me will happen this season.
Interesting. Lisa, give us a wee prediction.
Yeah, I'll just go for like the national team or something. Hopefully the national team will do a bit better. Hopefully
to be England.
Hopefully you'll see some players get like a Scotland call-up. Maybe some players that you would never think, that maybe some players on the cusp of the squad maybe getting a chance. I'll go for that one.
Give us one.
Kathy.
I
sound like her number one fan, don't I?
Just call it the Kathy House Show. Tommy, what's your prediction? Give us a wee off-the-cuff prediction for the season ahead.
Okay. For me, it's going to be the attendance, because it can only get higher. With the focus being on the cups and things like that, it's going to drive more clubs to want to actually progress fans into the stadiums. So you've got like cup finals, things like that, like the Rangers Celtic, the Rangers City game, and the fans there were just immense. Celtic game at the same time, fans across the other side. It was just brilliant, seeing that amount of fans, and I think we'll smash it this year, especially since you've seen so many different types of fan getting involved with the World Cup, and you watch their numbers. It's going to be exactly the same, I hope, throughout Scotland.
Brilliant. I'm going to go for a wee bit of a European twist. I think one of the two, Glasgow City or Celtic, could reach the group stage of the Champions League. Don't ask me who. One of them could. I think it will probably... I would lean more towards Glasgow City. I think Celtic, obviously, with the league path they're up against, I'll look at the likes of PSG, Real Madrid, Wolfsburg, Man United. That could be difficult. But Glasgow City have a good chance, I think, of getting into the Champions path. I think it'll be a very exciting season, and I think it's probably that point to wrap up. We've obviously got our predictions in. Where are we going to be this week? Suzanne, are you going to a game?
No, I'm totally off topic. I'm decorating my kids' room, so busy for the next few days. I think, just to mention though, I think that Glasgow City Hibs, first game of the season, I think that'll be a brilliant fixture. Just in terms of seeing where both the teams are at, will Glasgow City show that they've got the players that are, that they've signed the players that they're going to just go on and absolutely smash it this season? Are Hibs going to be the way that they've been the last few seasons, or it's got to really kind of tighten the ship there? So I think that'll be really interesting this weekend.
Brilliant. Lisa, where are we heading this weekend? You got a game?
I'm going to try and head along to the Kilmarnock game, see how they're getting on. I think it's Livingston they've got, I'm sure.
I think you're right, yeah. I think you're right.
So I'll head through there.
Brilliant. Yeah, away to Livingston at 4 o'clock. Tommy, what's your plans at the weekend? Are you going to be looking at a game?
No, probably just be sitting in the house as usual, gathering scores and getting websites and stuff. So
brilliant. Yeah, it's going to be a really fascinating weekend. Obviously, we'll have a show in the next couple of weeks, obviously recapping what's went on. And I want to thank the panel for being on the show. First of all, it's always a pleasure, Suzanne Mulvey. Thank you very much.
No problem at all. Thanks for having me.
Brilliant. And Lisa Swanson, you've done really well. You've got a career in the media lined up already.
I don't know about that, but thank you.
Absolute pleasure. And Tommy, where can we find Jack's MC Media?
you can find us on Twitter. We've got our website. You can find us on Facebook, Insta. The opening of a Chris packet will be there. So pretty much anywhere. Aye.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Tommy. It's been a pleasure. And thank you very much to everyone tuned in. Please follow our channel for exclusive women's football coverage. And as always, subscribe to our YouTube and podcast channels. Thanks very much, folks. We'll see you soon. Cheers.